Hello, and welcome back to Always the Horizon by Murdoch, as read by Livid Productions. Chapter 7. The Republiphant at the End of the World. For 2 days we have journeyed towards a new place, remote and very different from the last. The path ahead is marked by an ever-growing number of telephone poles and electric wires. This road that we travel is littered with the displaced from the metropolis in twilight, looking to find a new home. These people now make their way as we do, towards the land of the suburban syndicate, there at the end of the world. It is said that this place, built by the men who wish to withdraw from the reality of their condition, is the last great bastion of the so-called West. This retreat, called a suburb, built on a cliff, towers above that old eastern desert, filled with the bones of the Aryan youth. There in that sand pit, fit for devils, lie the remains of the children of the European continuum. An unlikely grave for an Aryan, there in the motherland of the Semite. Rumors abound that the suburban syndicate harbors a doomsday cult that worships a titan called the Republiphant. We pass through a multitude of identical houses, lined with well-maintained lawns and plastic trees, hedgerows and white picket fences, as we draw ever further into this suburbia. Here nearly everything is adorned with my red, white, and blue. Patriotism on display, from the stickers on the backs of vehicles to the ribbons tied around the telephone poles. Know this, though things here seem pleasant, in truth, there are sinister undertakings afoot. Rider, look here at this sign. It bears an image of the suburban senator with a Semitic gremlin from the desert below clinging to his shoulder. The image reads simply, "Remember our eternal alliance." Behind them, a picture of those two great twin towers in flames, before they collapsed and were made into dust. That image, burned into the eyes of my countrymen, will serve well as a mimetic key to unlock my inner chaos. Finally, we make our way to the center of this citizen's paradise, at the very edge of the cliffs, where stands a massive Romanesque temple, encircled by a large audience undergoing some type of ceremony. There above the steps of the temple, standing at the podium, lies the suburban senator with a Semitic gremlin from the desert below, clinging to his shoulder. The senator calls out,
"My fellow suburbians, it brings me no joy to inform you of this, but that great metropolis which housed so much evil has finally been annihilated from this world."
The audience cries out in terror. The senator speaks up once more.
"However, do not fear, for we need only to maintain our pact with our friends from the desert below, and we shall conserve both our lives and our lands."
Faces in the audience instantly change from fear to overwhelming joy and laughter as they cry out in ecstasy. The Semitic gremlin, whose smile betrays all innocence, leans into the ear of the senator and whispers something. In a moment, the senator lets out,
"Are there any young men today who would give up his life for freedom?"
Suddenly, a voice is heard from the back of the crowd. A young man, standing with his all-too-Americana white Southern family, speaks. "For the love of liberty, I would give up my life today so that freedom may endure forever." The audience claps so as to maintain their routine. The young man hugs his family, and then, to our horror, he walks off the side of the cliff. We run to the edge only to witness his body hit the rocks below. Just as he is made no more, the audience begins singing, "Lord, we shall prevail, Lord, we shall prevail." Writer, this mutilation of the European vine has gone on for too long. I have brought you here so that with your aid we may tear down this system of evil. However, it has been said to me by those who carry the remains of the National Socialist banner that it will be impossible to dislodge my countrymen from this cult, that until the nothing makes its way further into this region, my compatriots will maintain their illusions of conservatism and a false sense of security under the shadow of a red titan. Some used to say back at my old pub that we should harness the power of this titan, the Republiphant, that we could use it as a weapon to dispel the Semitic curse. I shall disregard both positions. For here today, I aim to kill the Titan itself. If it can be destroyed completely, then perhaps my countrymen can be made free of this black-hearted Semitic sorcery. Otherwise, the nothing will come, regardless of their illusions. We make our way in front of the crowd, between their eyes and the gremlin and its puppet politician. As the crowd continues to chant in their hypnotic state, I call out to them. Brothers, sisters, my countrymen, you who hold freedom in your hearts, do you not see that we have been tricked? That a terrible spell has been put over you, allowing you to send your children over cliffs to a bastardized desert landscape, filled with the most wretched of beings' creations. How do you fight for freedom, spilling your blood for Semites who wish to lord over the world, daily remove the very freedom you proclaim to love? The crowd is made silent. The gremlin, still maintaining its smile, leans over and whispers into the senator's ear. Suddenly the senator calls out.
Here at the forum, we appreciate all political speech. However, this is not election season. If you wish to change anything about this paradise that we have made, you must simply run for office. Now, son, please remain quiet as we continue our procession.
I begin to laugh as I state, I am not here to vote or be made a puppet. If these people were not bombarded by the Semitic spell which forces a pernicious illusion, then surely any sacred clown could win an election against a eunuch Semitic puppet such as yourself. The senator scowls as the gremlin leans in to whisper in his ear once more. I call out to the gremlin. I know why you aided the Mohammedan ghoul in his machinations there on that September day. It was just another anchor, another means to keep this people tied to your desert to fulfill your ambitions. I know why you aimed to destabilize the entirety of the desert world you came from. How could it be anything less than Lebensraum? For Israel is reborn. She has slept for 2,000 years, and now she awakes, hungry, ready to devour the world. The gremlin's smile fails as fear makes way. It pauses for a moment, then leans into the puppet politician's ear. The senator suddenly barks.
Demon! This here is the Antichrist. Here's come to signal the end times.
The audience cries out in fear, slowly backing away from us. We reveal our daggers as I state. The Antichrist? We have come to erase Semitic myths, not fulfill them. In the distance, a rumbling sound comes from inside the temple. Once, and again. The sound of giant footsteps draws to a crescendo until, lumbering out of the shadows, comes the Republiphant. This red monstrosity, towering at over 18 foot, with a giant's body and the head of an elephant, ducks down to fit through the final columns as it walks out the temple to meet us for sacred combat. Rider, know this, the Republiphant was first used in the American Civil War. It is said to have wiped out entire regiments alone, back when Atlanta met the nothing. Even cannon fire cannot pierce its thick skin. Today, we shall endeavor to resume the Battle of Appomattox, and this time, win it for good. The Republiphant begins walking towards us. Rider, focus. Remember what we learned in the storm on the heights of circumspection. Now is the moment we must unleash that hatred. Now is the time to manifest the chaotic. I think of those towers that once symbolized my fatherland's prosperity and the cruelty of their fate. Our grips tied on our daggers, we blast with raging speed like lightning unleashed. I do not believe the monster expected such momentum, for it does nothing as I run up the side of its arm, leaping across as my dagger slashes its eye. It screams in pain as I land close beneath, near its legs. Rider, be careful. A single blow from such a colossal opponent could prove deadly. The Titan raises up its leg and brings it down with such force that even though we manage to dodge, we are not spared from its impact, and we are both thrown to the ground. Quickly we return to our feet. With wicked speed, I leap into the air once more, but I'm caught by its massive arm, and it swats me away like an insect, hurling me across the street until finally I make impact with the side of a car, crushing the door and window. The Republiphant begins charging in my direction. Perhaps it was a little ambitious to meet a creature like this in its own home. I pull myself from the tangled wreck just in time to miss being crushed by the Titan's tusks. The Republiphant's face, now lodged into the side of the vehicle, gives me the opportunity I need as I make my way up its back and attempt to stab it in the spine. I plunge my dagger down, but it is stopped by this pachyderm's resilient epidermis. Mere blades are useless against such a creature. The Republiphant finally dislodges its tusks from the side of the car, throwing me once again high into the air. Luckily, I managed to land on my feet some steps from where you stand, Ryder. The Red Titan turns to look at us, its hand holding its eye, still gushing with blood. And suddenly, we hear the Senator cry out.
Come, friends, let us aid our guardian. Do you not see that he has been wounded?
From the crowd, who still linger not too far away, comes a young, beautiful woman. She walks up to the Colossus as it looks at her. The Republiphant pauses for a moment, then picks her up with a single hand. It brings her close and opens its mouth. In an instant, it devours her upper half, then swallows while discarding her lower. Through some type of malicious magic, the beast's eye begins to heal rapidly. In less than a few seconds, the Republiphant is once again ready for combat. I call out to my people. Brothers, please end this madness. But they only look on with blank stares. The Republiphant begins charging our way once more. Just before it makes impact, we dive to the side. And this time, the Titan smashes through a telephone pole. Sparks fly as the creature rights itself and turns to face us. Ryder, our daggers are of no use, but it appears fate has given us opportunity to wield lightning once more. Come, follow me. With great speed, we dart over to the next telephone pole and await the beast. The Republiphant cries out and once more begins its charge. Again, with wicked speed, we dodge just before it delivers its fatal blow. Once again, a telephone pole is snapped in half and sparks are cast out in great number. We move to another pole, then another and another. Eventually, the entire battlefield is littered with electrical wire, sparking and hissing. The Republiphant launches out once more with a charge, but this time, as it makes its impact, it catches itself in the entangled wires, causing it to trip and wrap itself in them as it tumbles down. Instantly, a flash blinds our eyes as the Colossus goes up like the 4th of July. As the smoke clears, we see the Titan laying on the ground, smoldering, sparks still letting out here and there. The Republiphant's skin now bubbles, as boiling blood pours from its eyes and its mouth. Well done, Ryder. I suppose we've turned the old party into something less than grand. The crowd begins to cry and weep like mad. The Senator, with the gremlin whispering in his ear, looks to his flock and yells.
What are you waiting for, you fools? You know what must be done.
In an instant, the citizens begin hurling themselves off the cliff. The little girl runs straight towards the edge, and just before she does so, I seize her. But I cannot stop the others as I cry out, "Please, think of what you're doing!" After around 100 or so had leapt to their deaths, the Republiphant begins to move its limbs. Slowly it rises to once again tower above us. It lets out a great roar. It must have been loud enough to hear for miles. The Senator begins weeping as he screams to his flock.
Revelation 8:7. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire, mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up.
Ryder, I was in error to think we could tackle this Titan here in the domain of its cult. However, if we can strike down the gremlin, perhaps it will break this curse. I look to see the Semitic creature screaming into the ear of the senator.
They can't be seen working together! They can't be seen working together!
I think to myself, who can't be seen working together? Then, from the woods nearby, we hear the gallop of a second colossus racing towards our position. The trees begin to give way, left and right, and then, towering high above, enters the Donkocrat, charging straight forward. This four-legged titan, even larger than the Republiphant, must have come to the aid of its sibling. Know this. Though they are made to appear to be enemies, they are both fundamentally Semitic glamim. There is little time, Ryder. We must cut off the head of the snake before any more harm can come to my countrymen. I lunge towards the gremlin that clings on the puppet politician's shoulder. I launch myself high into the air, with my dagger's blade in line with the Semitic wretch's throat. But just before I can bring the dagger to its target, the gigantic Donkocrat bites down on my arm, then hurls me high into the sky. Tremendous pain shoots through me as I come crashing down to the earth. Even though I manage to land on my feet, I am immediately brought to my knees. Suddenly, I realize I've not only lost my dagger, but my right arm as well. This is no good, Ryder. Sacred clowns do better when they have all their limbs intact. No, it is of no concern. It's just a flesh wound. My left hand alone could snap this gremlin's neck. I sprint up the stairs toward the podium to meet my enemy, only to suddenly be blown away as the Republiphant captures me in its charge. Before I know it, I am impaled on this monstrosity's tusk. My body, which up to this point had been completely filled with hate, begins to let fear seep in. No, I can't allow a single second of doubt, of cowardice. I begin punching the eye of the Republiphant with the only arm I have left, as I hang, skewered in its jaws. The Republiphant grabs hold of my leg as to pull me on. The pain becomes unimaginable as its tusk begins to tear through my organs. With my other leg, I give out a great kick, piercing directly into the left eye of the Titan. The Republiphant cries out in pain as it yanks me down, ripping both myself free from the tusks, as well as my leg free from myself. I fall, narrowly catching the edge of the cliff. There I hang with one arm and one leg. The Republiphant looks down at me with eyes burning with hatred. It brings its leg up once more, and suddenly I see your dagger, Ryder, flying through the air and making its way into the right eye of the monstrosity. The Republiphant cries out with terrible sound as its leg comes crashing down, missing me and causing the Titan to hurl itself off the cliff. Unfortunately, as it comes my way, the Republiphant's hand catches my crimson swastika cloak and brings me down, as we both plummet to the desert below. There is only black. Yet still I have consciousness. I managed to open a single eye. Ah, yes, I remember now. A battle. I look down with what life I have left at my remains and surroundings. My body, now broken beyond repair, lies dying, here in this graveyard unfit for an Aryan. Blood saturates this area like spilled wine at an orgy. The beast lies next to me. It does not appear to be healing. Perhaps it is finally dead. Are you still up there, Ryder? Did you get the gremlin? Have we saved my countrymen? Suddenly, I see the fluttering of small wings coming out of my pocket, and before my eyes flies out a moth. I wonder, did you come all this way with me? From that dreaded city in twilight that no longer exists? Go on, little one, and find a new flame to chase. I suppose here and now I must face death's embrace. I pause and reflect. Then, with the last pockets of air that have not been submerged by the blood that ever fills my lungs, I whisper, "But where's the fear?" I smile as tears fall from my eyes. I look out and see the sun setting. I raise the only arm I have left to give the sun a Roman salute. With my last breath, I whisper, "Thank you." Right then and there, I was a sacred clown filled with satisfaction. My eyes shut and I sleep. Hours pass as I bake in the hot sun until finally it is night. How could it be that I have not yet bled out? Why does my spirit linger here? I look out once again at the landscape that will be my tomb. It is littered with so many of my people who died here for nothing, and for thee nothing. This is no holy land. No, not for an Aryan. My body shakes as I feel death's breath on my skin. My eyes wander to the stars. A smile comes over me as still the satisfaction lingers. Suddenly one of the stars becomes brighter and brighter until I see her face within the glimmering light. She who was made for me, whose ivory skin glows like the moon in the dark night. She, the guardian of love, man's natural cleric. Aphrodite, her sweet name, slowly floats down to my dying body and gently kisses my bloody lips. She holds my face with both her hands. She looks into my eyes, saying,
There is still work to be done, my sacred clown. You child of Dionysus. You are not allowed to die yet.